Okay, welcome to our third episode of Soccer Talk. We're excited to be here. I'm Coach DEATON.
Coach Camey.
And just on the off chance that this show doesn't get up before something that we're discussing today, bear with us. We're still working out all the kinks. Hopefully, you'll still enjoy the show. So, obviously, we got to talk about the Champions League finals. It's done. It's over. Real won it. So, what are your comments, Coach?
Well, it was a very interesting final. Of course, everything has to, do with what happened with Salah, what happened with the keeper, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to talk about. We've heard a lot in the media of what went on, whether there's a big controversy, whether it was a foul or not a foul. So, in my opinion, and I've listened to a lot of commentaries about, people talking about whether it's a foul or not. I don't know. It's because of the show that they have, and it's a job for them, and they have to pay. We are doing this for fun, so I think we can talk about what we want and how we feel about it. So it is our personal opinion. To me, and you'll see it on the picture, it is a foul, and we're actually going to have a guest official for our show today who's going to give us his opinion of what he thought about a foul. He's actually an official, a real official in the games, and he knows a lot about calling fouls. So
yeah, our expert Jimmy Jenkins left me a recording of his take on it. So we're going to listen to that.
First thing we need to realize is that we've had days to analyze this, where the referee on the field only has a few seconds. Having watched this a few times, there's a few things that I've noticed in the opinion of this referee. First off, there was an obstruction slightly of another player as play was continuing, so the referee may not have been able to see the entire play. After that, the initial contact is not a foul. That is just part of the game. But the follow-through is where the foul is being committed. The locking of the arms and then the rotation of the body, dragging the player down and then slamming him into the ground would constitute serious foul play, and in the opinion of this referee, would warrant a red card.
So there it goes. Our official referee, Jimmy Jenkins, would have given that red card.
an expert on this. So
yeah, I mean, for me, I'd probably, for sure, I think it was a foul.
right.
For sure. I mean, you can't pull somebody down. So, like he said, it was more the follow-through
Right.
which would have warranted it. Whether it being a red card or not, that would vary depending on the type of game it is. And I think in a game like this, as when I used to ref as a referee, I probably wouldn't have given the red. Definitely a yellow, which
Right.
would have given it a PK possibly. So, everybody sees it so differently.
But Jimmy is right about one thing. We're analyzing the play, and we're seeing. You probably see pictures frame by frame, and yeah, like he says, refs don't have all that luxury of looking at
Right.
something like that. But he's right about if he would have had that call, maybe the initial part is not a foul, but you can see it through as the follow through where he actually hooks his arm through it, grabs him, and brings him to the ground. That's why the injury occurred, because of the way he fell. He actually has his body over Salah's body. Ramos didn't necessarily let go of the arm.
Right.
You can actually see his body going over his arm, and that's why he dislocated, or
Yeah.
that shoulder was not. You can tell he was in pain. Salah is sitting there and he's crying after a while because the pain was that bad. And to me, I go back and look at how the defense on Real has been for the last maybe 5-6 years, maybe even longer than that. When Pepe was there,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have some defenders there that they want to do everything you can to defend, but sometimes these people go over. I mean, to me, they're dirty players. I don't care what they say or who you are, if you're a fan or not. To me, I'm a fan of the sport first before I'm a fan of a team. And this is something that is not acceptable. And to me, it should have been at least a yellow, but I thought it should have been a red card. I mean, Ramos is one of those guys who always looks for committing fouls like this where he'll take a player out completely.
Yeah, and again, this is something that really could have changed the game, even though it was 0-0 at the
Right.
time. it still could have completely made the game very, very different. Obviously, if Ramos gotten red carded, then they would have gone down a player.
Right.
So that would have made things different. And so the fact that Real won
Right.
3-1.
Right.
Now we address the 2 goals that were scored that out of the 3 that Real scored that were clearly mistakes from
Right.
the keeper.
Exactly.
And at this level, you're
Right.
thinking to yourself, are you kidding me?
Right.
You know, especially the second goal.
Right.
The second goal where the ball was coming right to his hands.
Right.
And it is almost as if he just said, okay, I'm just going to let it go in.
Right.
You know, and I mean, we've seen this coaching the youth all
Right.
the time,
Right.
but this is a professional.
Right. And he's 24 years old, so
Yeah.
he's not like he's a rookie.
Right.
You know, he's been there a while. But, you know, I also see this on the other side because I was talking to our other coach, Maui, Coach
Oh,
Maui.
yeah.
And we talked about, you know, I played every position, even keeper, I only played it once, but I played every position in the game. And when you're a forward or you're a midfield, if you make a mistake, oh, he missed a goal or he missed a shot or whatever. If you're a defender or if you're a keeper and you make a mistake like that, it'll cost you the game. It's going to stay with you.
Oh.
And I feel bad for him because this is going to follow him all over.
Especially
Yeah.
since he might not have another game for a while.
Exactly.
You know, and
Yeah.
if you don't get right back out there and play
Right.
again, it's hard to overcome it because you're just sitting there thinking
Right.
about it over and over and over.
And I'm wondering how are the Liverpool fans going to react to this, you know, in the next home game.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have a home game for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
and I'm curious if he's even going to still be the starter.
Exactly. Some people in the room is already about him not even being moved to a different team.
Yeah. See,
So-
and at the youth level, which we coach, you have to expect this. And
Right.
so you don't pull a goalkeeper
Right.
when they make a mistake like that.
Right.
You have to keep their confidence
Exactly.
going. But at the pro level,
Yeah.
to me, if I was managing Liverpool, he'd be gone.
Right.
I mean, or at least be benched.
Right.
And I would have him have to work his way back.
Right.
Because it's such an important game.
Right.
When you make those kinds of errors,
Right.
this should not be done.
Yeah.
The second one, I could see when they show the ball in slow motion coming
Right.
towards him, it's not
Yeah,
swerving.
we
it's
were just
coming
talking about that.
right at him.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you're thinking, okay, he's got this easy.
But it's also telling you the strength of the shot.
Right.
Which is, and this is something that I tell Connor, our keeper at our school, when a ball is hit that hard, you don't want to try to catch the ball like
Yeah.
that. You want to punch it.
Right.
Because you saw the result right
Exactly.
there. And this
That's
is
the
exactly
risk.
what I keep telling him. You know, whenever a ball is going that hard, you don't want to try to catch that because it'll go through your hands, which is exactly what happened to him.
Exactly.
And the ball went in bounds.
Now, let's talk about Bale's goal, because you and
Right.
I text each other.
Right.
And I think it was heavenly. I mean, I
Right.
think it was perfectly clean. And obviously, when you see the replays, you're
Right.
able to see where he actually had his footing and
Right.
how connected to the ball he was.
Right.
And just a quick comment, you know, Paul Scholes has scored a lot of goals where he
Right.
hasn't hit the ball cleanly.
Right.
And that's part of the reason he scored the goals.
Right.
And so I always kind of take that into
Right.
play after hearing him years ago
Right.
make that comment. And to me, I think it was a fabulous goal.
Right. Which is what everybody's saying, and of course, I'm the one not saying that because to me, the bicycle kick looks a little sloppy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Ronaldo's bicycle kick.
Well,
so,
yeah.
of course, you know, Ronaldo's Ronaldo, but, you know, his legs being open. But besides the technique of the bicycle kick, it was still a bicycle kick in the Champions, which was the winning goal, even because it was the second goal. It wasn't the third
Right.
goal, but it was still the one that put him up. So
And he was
I
only
give him
on
that.
the pitch for
Yeah.
a few minutes.
Exactly. He just came in, and you know, people will criticize Zidane for his subs many times. And when he brought Bale, people were going, "What are you trying to do now?" And you know, he was correct. I mean, he gave him 2 goals. I mean,
Yeah.
what more do you want from a sub when he comes in?
Yeah.
You know, in a finals with that kind of a pressure.
Yeah,
So-
and you know, if we're lucky, the MANU fans will get him because there's rumors that he's thinking of coming to us. So that would be nice, and especially since he's already got EPL experience.
Exactly.
Okay, enough of our Champions League talk. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. Now, Coach, we talked a little bit about how there's going to be a new manager for Arsenal. And they
Right.
have one.
Right.
Unai Emery. And he's from, I don't know why PSG let him go. I mean, what has he ultimately done? Other than the 2 titles that he won with PSG, which to me wasn't even his team. I mean, yeah, Neymar came over, so that was new. But what do you think? What do you think of this guy?
Well, one thing I want to say in his defense, you know, people talk about, well, you know, he won these cups with PSG, which wasn't his team, like you just mentioned. But if we do that, then we have to go back to Mourinho when he was at Real or when he was with Chelsea, or we go to Guardiola with Barcelona and then with Man City. You know, so even though you have a lot of talent in a team, you still have to perform. You still have to be a coach and put the right connection, the right players in the right positions. So to me, he did the right things at PSG. And if they let him go, you know, they let him go. But I think Arsenal is lucky to get him. I mean, we may say, well, he hasn't done much besides PSG. He did have Valencia and Sevilla. He was there. He did take him to the champions. He won 2 Europa Cup titles with Sevilla. So, I mean...
So he knows how to win.
Exactly.
Because he has won those 2 titles plus the 2 league titles with PSG.
But there's criticism because they're saying that one of the reasons he didn't stay at PSG is because of the ego problems that he had. Players talked about him openly, you know, to the media and stuff like that. And people were saying he didn't have control of PSG because of all the egos. And of course, you know, you have a lot of players in PSG that are, you know, have big egos. And they're saying but the problem is they're saying that he's going to have the same problem with Arsenal. And I don't see the same type of egos in Arsenal that you do at PSG. You know, there are some, but not as big as what PSG
not
has.
even close.
So I think he's also allowed to bring his staff. So he's bringing his players, and of course, you know, people thought that, you know, someone like Steve Bull will stay at Arsenal, and you know, we don't know, but they may not be his assistants.
Yeah.
He's bringing his staff from PSG with him. So there's going to be a few Spaniards, you know, with him. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, I know from ManU's experience when we lost Fergie and all of his staff, Moyes did the same thing. He came in, Moyes hadn't won anything, and he brought in all his new staff. And I remember Ferdinand was saying that at one time he put up in the film room the Everton's defense and said, this is how you're supposed to play defense.
Right.
And these guys at Man U are going, are you kidding me? We've won all these titles, and you're trying to tell us to watch a team who hasn't won anything to follow them.
Right.
So sometimes bringing in a whole new staff doesn't necessarily pay off.
Right.
The difference is Moyes didn't win anything, Emery has.
Right.
So you do have that going for you.
So that's what I'm saying. We'll see, you know, what happens.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really tell until, you know. And I've heard from some of the players, I think Wilshere was one of them, and talking about being excited about going back to training because they want to see what he's going to have, you know.
Yeah.
Some of the guys know that in July preseason, once that World Cup is over, you know, preseason, you got to get ready, and so they're ready to go back and start training.
Right.
So some of the players from Arsenal they're already, you know, excited about going back.
Yeah.
So, and that's, you know, something good news for the fans, you know, for Arsenal.
Yeah.
You know? All right. So now, let's talk about FA Cup final. Your comments on the FA Cup and the final.
Obviously, I'm upset that we lost, but this goes back to what I said before. Lukaku was injured, didn't start, and we had certain players out there that just couldn't get it done. You know, and to me, overall, it was a good game. I think ManU was in it. I think they had chances. Whether or not people would agree that players like Rashford and Martial and Herrera and all those guys should still be starters, I think they should. I mean, for an offense with who they have now, if they were all healthy, for me, I would play 3-3, and it would be PUGH and Matic and Sanchez as the midfield.
Right.
And then Rashford, Lukaku, and Martial up top. So now you've got you know, the big guy up in the middle.
Right.
And you've got two speedsters on the outside, and you've got the workhorse between Sanchez and PUGH, and then Matic can just protect the back four. You know, whether they can score with that, who knows, you know.
Well, what did you think, though, of Mourinho's layback, you know, after they scored? It seems like his subs came in a little late, and he wasn't really too concerned from the beginning.
Well, I think because MANU has come from behind before,
Right.
him staying calm was good.
Right.
And bringing the subs on when he did, obviously, is his
Right.
thinking. I think Mata would have been good from the start,
Right.
because of the way that he can create. But you know, it's one of those games where, again, like I said in the last show, I think it meant more to Chelsea than it did to MANU, and I think maybe in the back of Mourinho's mind, he wasn't as concerned about it.
And I think you're right, though, about, you know, MANU having a reputation of coming from behind at the end of the game and tying the game and winning it at the last minute. So maybe that's what everybody's hoping for at the end.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on now to which we haven't really talked anything about, the U.S. women. Okay, so their first game is a friendly against China on June 7th on Fox Soccer 1. And then they have another one against China. Sometimes they do these back-to-back games on the 12th on ESPN 2. And as I have stated before, I'm a huge U.S. women's fan. If you are a soccer fan, if you love to watch soccer, you have to watch these women play. Because they're so technical, they're so physically strong, and just dominate their opponents. Even when they're playing some of the best teams in the world, they're always there. They're always attacking, they're always working. There's always 2 to 3 people around the opponent when they get the ball. They're constantly, they can attack in so many different ways. And Jill Ellis, their coach, has really got them being able to adjust and play different types of things.
I think they learned from that one World Cup when we lost in the finals, where once, I think it was in Germany, where they, I forgot the opponent, but they'd figure out what our offense was. Once they stopped that, there was no other style or nothing else, another different way of attacking, and we couldn't do anything. And I think after that...
That was Germany.
Yeah, it was Germany. After that, it's like everything changed.
Yeah.
Different types of attack in one game. You can't just have one type of attack in
That
one
was
game.
when Abby Wambach was there. And everybody was just like, let's just kick it to her, kick it to her, kick it to her. Now, obviously, she's great. She scored some great goals, but they depended on her too much.
And you know what? These games are going to be excited because, you know, China, a rivalry. Right? Being born.
Yes. I
it's
mean,
kind of like the U.S. and Sweden, same thing.
Yep. And the 99 final against China here in the U.S., I mean, that was huge. That's what basically put them on the map.
Yeah, and if you remember, that's Chastain.
Chastain takes her shirt off,
Having that Nike contract, scoring up, winning goal.
And you've got players who are still there. LLOYD, who broke the 100-goal mark versus Mexico in a friendly earlier.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, I mean 100 goals is a lot of goals, obviously. And so I just want all of our fans out there to take some time to try and watch these games if you can, because I'm telling you, you're not going to be disappointed the way they play. Even though this is a friendly and it doesn't mean anything, you're going to see some great players. Just to name a few, you got MALLORY PUGH. She's 19 years old.
Scored that great goal, the one last friendly against, who was it?
Against Mexico.
Mexico, it was the Mexico one. That's right.
She's super quick, very talented for such a young player. And then obviously Alex Morgan, our forward, very good. Crystal Dunn, I think she doesn't always start, but I think she's definitely a starter. Great player. TOBIN HEATH is kind of like the female Messi. She can dribble like you've never seen. Most girls don't dribble that way. Lindsey Horan, who is one of the first American players to, out of high school, instead of going to college, went overseas to play pro.
Exactly.
Which at the women's level hadn't happened, and so she was new with that. Megan Rapinoe, the short blonde-haired player who is just incredible.
She's a fighter. I just love her intensity in the game.
I mean, she's got a great ability to attack players. And then you've got Becky Sauerbrunn, who 3 years in a row won Defensive Player of the Year in the league.
Right.
She's incredible. Kelly O'Hara, I mean, she scored the winning goal in the, in the last World Cup. Morgan Bryan, who's a great midfielder, she's still new. And then Abby DAHLKEMPER, who's new to the squad, just like Becky SAUERBRUNN. Those two in the center defense are really good.
Right.
So I think we need to, as soccer fans, we need to support them more, because the difference between them and the U.S. men, which shout out to the U.S. men, you beat Bolivia 3-0. Great job. I didn't see it. It wasn't on any of my channels. I don't know why they didn't air it. But the women, they win.
Exactly.
And even when they don't win, they play their butts off. And it's an exciting match all the time. And I like watching them better than I like watching our men. So hopefully you get a chance to watch.
In a way, it's because the men's level hasn't risen up to where the girls is at right now. I think the girls team, or the U.S. women overall, the level is much higher compared to the men.
And when you look at the gender issues, okay, so because I've been asked this question coaching women's soccer for 20 years, all the time, you got to look at the fact that our men are basically 100 years behind all the other men in the rest of the world, because soccer was so much more popular for the men in the rest parts of the world, whereas the women didn't play soccer in the rest of the parts of the world. And so our women were really strong. Norway was really strong. Those were the two right out of the gate when they started women's soccer. But now, if you look at our women's pro league, most of the talented players, the best ones in the world, are coming and playing for us. If you look at let's just take Mexico, for example, the women's national team. Most of those players play college ball here in the U.S. So and live in the U.S. So they're all.
And when we had the league, we had those players stay and played at the professional league. Remember Marta from Brazil?
Yeah.
All those players.
And she's playing in our league.
Exactly.
So you've got all of these great players throughout the world now that the women's game's getting really big, which Man United is now going to be having a women's team. That's what I heard. So that's going to be another thing.
The Spanish teams have it. Barcelona has it.
Yeah, a lot of the EPL teams have it. And the French league is, there's a lot of women's pro leagues now that they didn't have.
Exactly.
So our women were kind of at the forefront of that. And they're still ranked #1, even though they didn't win the Olympics. And they're still ranked #1.
Whereas in the men, I don't know if people know this, but like when we made our first World Cup back way in the 30s, a lot of the players were immigrants. They were people who came from Europe and were going to college here, and those are the players that played in that.
And there just wasn't that support.
Exactly. And people didn't care, especially because they were also immigrants that weren't fully Americans, even though they lived here and went to school here. They were not from here.
And so they were supporting their home countries.
There were a lot of them were Italian or Irish, so. Whereas with the women, it's all American.
Okay, so hopefully you guys will watch that. Now, our last topic is World Cup. At the time we're taping this, we're only 15 days away from starting. So we talked about SALAH earlier. He's out 3 to 4 weeks, which means he could probably make the last game of the group stage. How is that going to affect Egypt's chances?
Well, you know what? Egypt, they're talking about, I saw a report on him saying that he should be ready before the first game. We'll see what, because he's a fighter, and hopefully maybe he's right. It's his body, so he knows it's the best. But their chances are not great without him. Even though the group is not the toughest, it's still, it's the World Cup, and when you're missing your best player, it's very tough.
Especially since you were going into it expecting him to be
healthy.
Exactly.
You saw what happened to Liverpool. They were a great team, but they were also great because of him. And not having him in the Champions Final the second half, you saw the big difference.
I also wonder too if even if he gets healthy enough for say the second game, and he's playing, if all that pressure is just going to make it worse. Whether he's going to be able to deal with that. Okay, we've got another player who got hurt, Dani Carvajal, for Spain. He's still in the squad, so I'm assuming that they're going to. They think he's going to heal in enough time. I don't know how big of a loss that is. Spain's got lots of great guys.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know how that's going to affect. And then Neuer played in a closed-door friendly for Germany.
Yeah.
So that means
So
that he's
that's good news
he's
for
getting-
them.
Yeah, that means
Yeah.
he's getting back to it.
We were thinking that he wasn't going to be
Right.
there, and so now it's great news. I mean, it's a big loss for Germany not having him for the World Cup. So that's great that he's actually played that game.
Yeah, so basically, you know, the World Cup is coming, and when we talk again, we'll talk about the women's game and see how they did, and we will also obviously touch base and get you caught up with any special news or anything like that that's going on with our World Cup.
And we'll start talking about the first round games of
Yeah.
the World Cup. So that's our
All right.
show for today.
Thanks. It's been
All right.
fun.
It was great. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll have more guests for our next show.
We're
So
hoping.
yeah, just be ready for our next show. I hope you enjoyed it, and let us know if you want. You can always comment on our, you know, you can subscribe if you want, and just leave us a comment. Keep it fun like always.
Yeah,
All right.
cool.
All right. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next show.